Hello, it's Stuart, the Unrepentant Atheist, and what I'm going to be talking about today in this video is how it seems to be that information which comes from supposedly supernatural sources is always so incredibly banal and disappointing. So, let me give you some examples. You probably are aware of the claims made by three young people in Portugal in 1917 that they were visited, I think, 6 times by a vision of the Virgin Mary. Sorry, excuse me. I live near a busy road, and I've got an ambulance just gone past. Yeah, so these children claim that they saw the Virgin Mary several times, and that she passed to them three secrets. Now, it's been said that the three secrets. The first secret is revealing the nature of hell. The second and third secrets, there's some disagreement about them, but a lot of people say that they predict the end of World War One, and they predict World War Two. There's some disagreement on interpretation because, like all prophecies and predictions from the Bible or from supernatural sources, they're usually very vague. Um, they're not direct at all, and they've got to be interpreted, which personally, any prediction or prophecy which needs to be interpreted, I, I would tend to dismiss. If it's coming from a supernatural source, and if its ultimate source is coming from a divinity, there should not really be issues with providing accurate information. So, with these secrets, one of them was the the girl. Her name's Lucia. I think she became a nun, and she was keeping the third secret to herself. She was seriously ill, and she had not released this secret. She was ordered to do so by a bishop, who said that she should write it down, uh, obviously in case she dies. So she was in a difficult situation, and she did, in 1941, I think it was. If you think that it's 24 years after the supposed event, she wrote the secret down, she put it into an envelope, and she said that it was not to be opened until the year 1960. How convenient. So it was eventually opened, and it was predictably vague once again, to such an extent that the man who became Pope Benedict at the time, when he read it, he commented that it contained nothing which could be considered to be a prediction, and he said that most people would consider it to be very disappointed in this so-called information. So nothing really. Of course, there are some who think that it did actually predict something, but most commentators, including religious commentators, have also kind of dismissed it, and nothing really much more to say about that. I've read through the text of the predictions, the so-called predictions, and it's absolutely ludicrous that if the Virgin Mary was appearing to these young people, that she provided this kind of convoluted, sort of vague information, which, quite frankly, is of absolutely no use to anybody. So I'm surprised, really, that this whole thing hasn't been discredited, but a lot of Christians still cling to it. So yeah, moving on. That's probably the most famous one, and which a lot of Christians still give credence to that as an actual event that is true. And yet the information that came out of it is just, as I say, absolutely completely useless. And even if it does predict the end of World War One, well, big deal. All wars end sooner or later. And even if it did predict World War Two, there's no mention of Hitler remotely, and there's no. It's what is the point in these predictions if it's not actually possible to use them to try and prevent these things from happening? So that's about it, really, for the Fatima children. I mean, obviously, it's a complete fraud. So no more to say about that. So just moving on then. Yeah, moving on to claims of psychics, for example, with their predictions and the information that they give people. One of the problems with psychics that really irritates me is that there are some police forces in the world which use them, and there's never really been any evidence that they come up with anything at all. And people often online say to me, if psychics are frauds, why are the police using them? And I suppose my only answer to that would be that there are people in the police who believe in psychics, and they're using public money to pay these people uh, who are who are not finding anything. And it baffles me why the police force are using these people when really they haven't solved any crimes at all. They never. All they've done really is send the police on a wild goose chase and provided red herrings and prevented the police from looking where they should be looking. But apart from that, with psychics, just to personalize it a little bit, I've got a friend who, well, basically, she believes in astrology, she believes in psychics, mediums, and tarot readings and all that kind of thing. And she occasionally feeds back to me what she's up to. And about psychics, for example, well, I mean, she's single, she's in her late 50s, and she's hoping to meet somebody because she doesn't want to spend a retirement on her own, which is understandable. And she goes to readers, she goes to psychics, etc., hoping that she's going to get some information that could help her, or just to know what the future holds for her, maybe out of some kind of comfort. So she tells me that, I mean, the last few readings that she's had for psychics, they're always saying, she's going to meet somebody, and he's going to have attractive eyes, he's going to be kind, etc., etc. And it just sounds to me like, again, it's a sort of wishy-washy kind of thing that is more or less useless to her, and it's just telling her what she wants to hear. Nobody wants to go. Nobody wants to pay a psychic money and be told bad news like you're going to not meet anybody and you're going to spend the rest of your life alone. So obviously, it wouldn't be bad for business if you were telling people those things. But I happen to know that she had a bit of a bad experience with somebody who let her down, basically, and some guy who was a bit of a sociopath. And I said to her, these psychics you've been seeing, they've been predicting a rosy future for you with, you're going to meet Mr. Wonderful. Why didn't they warn you about this guy? Because if they told you that this particular person was going to come along, and if they could have, described him in some way, or, given you some kind of clues, it would have saved you a lot of heartache. Why are they not providing you with useful information so that you can avoid bad experiences? Because all they're really doing is providing you with sort of wishful thinking, open-ended, and they're not telling you when you're going to meet somebody. They're just saying you're going to meet such and such a person, and they're giving you such vague information that you can't really use it. And when you're tripping up, they're not helping you to avoid tripping up. So she said to me for that, it's quite a typical kind of response where it's like she's almost willing to make any excuse for them, is that they would say that in life you've got to learn lessons and you've got to experience pain and you've got to trip over obstacles in order to learn. So, it's like she's prepared to make any excuses for these psychics to keep the delusion going that they're actually truly predicting her a good future. She's also been to see who else? She's been to see astrologers. She believes in astrology as well. And again, they're saying the same kind of they're saying this. I mean, with some of the predictions that she's getting, they're not entirely consistent. So, like with one, with the psychic is saying you're going to meet somebody at work this year, and and then she's going to see an astrologer, and the astrologer is telling her she's going to meet somebody somewhere else. You're going to meet somebody online, for example, and so they're not they're contradicting each other, and yet she's still believing in them, and she's saying, well, these predictions are not set in stone, and that it could be either one. So I mean, I feel sorry that she's spending all this money, uh, and of course there's tarot as well, which to think that a pack of cards can tell the future is just ludicrous. There's another thing that she believes in, which a lot of people believe in: astral projection. I don't know if you know what that is. I've been reading about it a little bit because there's another guy who's purportedly an atheist who's got a channel a bit like mine, small channel. No, actually, he's got more subscribers than me, but his videos don't really get that many more views. And he's reviewed several books on astral projection. And he claims to be an atheist. And how he could entertain astral projection and be an atheist, well, I suppose atheism obviously addresses belief in God, and that you could believe in astral projection and still be an atheist. Well, yeah, fair enough. But for me, you're not really engaging your critical thinking skills if you accept astral projection. So there's some author who apparently has written 3 books on astral projection and telling you how to do it and everything, and everybody can do it. And I looked very briefly, and I kind of left a few comments on his channel, and I just said that it's not. Oh, because he was claiming that it's scientific. So he opened one of the books, and he showed his viewers some tables of data. He said, "Look, it's scientific," and I just left a message saying, "Well, all you've done is show us a table of data. That in itself doesn't prove it's scientific, because we don't know what he's doing with the figures." And he replied to me, and he said, "Well, if you're really interested, go and read the books." Well, I don't need to. I don't need to read the books to dismiss astral projection. Um, I don't need to read the books. There's no evidence. I've kind of checked. I've checked one or two skeptic sites, and I've read up on astral projection, and I'm pretty convinced that there's nothing in it. It's nothing more than dreaming, frankly. But this friend of mine, she believes in astral projection, and she told me this story that a friend of hers died, and that for 2 years she was having visions of this friend, and she claims that she was able to leave her body as a spirit, go to the spirit world, and spend time with her friend. Well, I found this incredibly interesting. Of course, I didn't try and debunk it. I just said, well, I said that's amazing. Can you tell me some more details? And I said, does God exist? Was Jesus really resurrected? And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, if I was able to travel into the spirit world and I met somebody in the spirit world, it's probably the first question I would ask. I would say, is there just a spirit world, or is there a God too? Does God exist? Can you give me more details? Is Christianity the true religion? I would be asking all these questions if I was leaving my body as a spirit going into the spirit world. I want to know these things. And she says, oh, the problem is, Stuart, she said, with astral projection, you do go to the spirit world and you have conversations with spirits, but you're not allowed to remember any of the conversations. I said, what? So for 2 years you were floating off into the spirit world, meeting this friend, and you can't remember any of the conversations. She said, yeah, that's how it works. Well, I didn't comment to her, of course, but uh, I don't know really what she experienced. I can't say what she experienced, but the fact that she can't remember anything, any conversations or anything at all, any words at all from these visions or whatever she experienced. I mean, I've had dreams and I can remember conversations, uh, and if if I can have dreams and remember conversations, I don't see why, if she's truly leaving her body as a spirit and going into the spirit world, and she can't remember a single thing. It sounds to me very suspicious. That the thing is, she's a very honest person, and I believe that she believes it, but I just doubt in her interpretation. I think that probably what she's had is some dreams, maybe connected with the grief for her friend, and she likes to think that her friend is there in the spirit world, that she'll see her again one day, and she's had some dreams about her friend, and she's convinced herself that this thing is astral projection. Maybe there's another explanation. I'm just offering one, but I don't believe that. I don't believe in souls, and I don't believe in astral. I don't believe in astral projection. So yeah, we find so many of these stories, and if ever you come into a situation where people are telling you that they've traveled to the afterlife or they've been into the spirit world, you know, ask them, did they get any information that can corroborate what they're saying? Did they get? It's like with these the Fatima girls, they didn't come back with any information which can corroborate what they're saying. Nothing at all, and that's my whole problem with psychic phenomena. And the whole thing, all the psychics and everything, they can never they can never give us any information that they couldn't have just simply made up. I mean, I've challenged psychics, and I've said to one or two psychics that I'm skeptical about, and of course I'm skeptical about all of them. I've said to them, look, when I was 8 years old, I had a friend, and he died. If you can tell me how that friend died and tell me his name, I'll believe in you, because I mean, on the spot now, and even if they went and did any research, I don't think they would be able to find out the answer. But if they can tell me that now, or they don't know my middle name, if they can tell me on the spot now, but my grandmother, who is dead, knows my middle name, knows the nickname that I was called when I was a child. If you can get in touch with my grandmother and just tell me something as banal and commonplace as my middle name, which my parents who were alive could tell you if you could go and talk to them. But if you can contact my grandmother or my grandfather, and there are some other people that died who know what my nickname was when I was a child, if you can tell me that now, I will absolutely get down on my knees, and I will believe that you are a psychic. Nothing. And when I challenge them like that, nothing. They'll say, "Oh, well, it doesn't really work like that." Well, it's a pity, because that's the kind of evidence I'm going to need in order to convince me that there's absolutely anything in psychic phenomena. So I don't know what to say. There are people making a lot of money out of gullible people buying books, and there are mediums pretending that they're contacting the dead and preying on people's grief. What a crazy world we live in, where people believe in all this nonsense. Unscrupulous people making money, and it's just unbelievable. So I'm a bit frustrated about that. But just to recap, so from what I've been able to see, all the claims for psychic phenomena, all the claims for mediums, visions of the Virgin Mary, etc., 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 I'll dismiss the whole lot of them, because they've not come back with any information which is of any use, and a special kind of information that nobody on earth could really know, and which would be useful, or a real prediction given before the event, not after. Not predict World War II is going to happen, but not open the envelope until after World War II. No, we need to know specific predictions before they happen, and they've got to be specific. There have got to be details there that could not have been known before the event happens. Let's have some proper evidence for these phenomena, because until then, I'll just have to turn around and say that they're all, well, I'd be tempted to say they're all false. I don't want to put the burden of proof on myself, but I'll have to for now say that I'm not convinced that they're true. So let me know your thoughts. Maybe you've got some stories, which obviously will be anecdotal. If you've got any kind of evidence that you've heard of. I mean, obviously, I'm going to be skeptical if you tell me that there is something. I'm going to be skeptical, but nevertheless, if you want to leave some comments, if something has happened, then I would be very interested to hear about it. So, well, that's all for now, guys. Look forward to doing another video very soon. Bye.